Hey guys, it's JT Tran, and today I have a very special guest, Alex from Playing with Fire, one of the online dating experts out there, as well as in-person coaching. But instead of me explaining all about Alex and how he's like god tier level, like dating apps expert, how about Alex, you give yourself an introduction to my audience who might not know you?
Sure. I don't know if I'm God tier, but yeah, we're in a channel called Playing with Fire. We specialize in giving practical, no BS dating advice. I guess we do a lot of dating app content. That's what most people find me for. But yeah, we just specialize in giving like no BS practical advice, like do this, do that, and get this outcome. Also do debates and got into a whole bunch of live streams and all that, but mainly specialize in dating advice.
Got you. So, with the advent, obviously, with COVID, but especially in my online audience of Asian guys who are very technically inclined, everybody wants to do the dating apps, right? And like, how did you get started where you actually became like really good when it comes to like the dating apps like Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, and all of those?
Yeah, when I started, actually, I don't think Bumble or certainly not Hinge wasn't around because it was like 2016, 2015. It was just primarily Tinder in those days and like OkCupid or something like that. I started off with my pickup journey in like 2013 when I read the book The Game, and I started off with cold approach initially, but then around 2015 or so, I got a corporate job where I was working a lot. I was doing sales actually, and I was working like 50 hours a week, so I just didn't have time to go out and do cold approach. So then and that's when I started getting really into dating apps, and I started applying a lot of the sales concepts I learned to dating apps, which worked pretty well, like the idea of like screening your customer, screening the girl you're talking to, dealing with objections, progressive escalation, progressive closing. So meaning like if you don't go just straight from like, hey, what's up to like we should go out Tuesday night, you say something like we should get together sometime soon, which would be a soft close. And then the girl agrees, and then you kind of so a lot of these concepts just I wound up adopting them from sales, using them in online dating. So this was around like 2016, 2017. And yeah, it worked pretty well. I started getting really, really good results with dating apps. Again, it wasn't like a one-time thing. It was like over the span of a year or two, really kind of started getting really good results. And so then I started a Facebook group where I was just basically sharing some of the things I learned, and then it just grew from there.
What's interesting is I kind of have like the reverse journey, right? Where I tried the all the stereotypical ways of meeting women that you're supposed to when you're like a mainstream normie. Intramural dating, happy hour with like the corporate, other people, and eHarmony, right? And this is back in the day when you had to take a personality test and you had to pay a
Mhm.
membership. And I got the result back and it said like, oh, we're gonna have to refund your money. Like according to these results, you're too cerebral, you're too analytical, so we can't find your match anywhere. So here's your money. I'm like, damn. I mean, am I that much of a loser? And that's when I started going hard into pickup. I was like, there must be a way to figure this out. Like, holy shit. So it's interesting that you were able to apply like sales into creating another avenue of the dating funnel because when it comes to dating, you can meet people in real life, nighttime, daytime, social circles, church, work, whatever. But also because of technology, now it's like dating apps. So, Alex, tell me what are the big mistakes, right? You've explored, you've tested, and you've seen and you've audited like your various students and clients. What are the big mistakes that guys are doing that they need to be aware of when it comes to Tinder and all the apps?
I think a lot of it is things that you would actually expect. So, number one is having bad photos. The majority of guys who think they have good photos don't actually have good photos. If you ever like take a girl's Tinder profile and you swipe, you'll realize that 95% of profiles suck. It's a very, very, very high amount. And like a lot of guys just think they have a really good profile. And sometimes doing a professional photo shoot is not enough. Your profile can still suck. Unfortunately, like 95% of professional photographers also suck when it comes to dating photos. But that's a tangent in of itself. So yeah, just having bad photos. A good photo should make you look good in the photo. That can be done with lighting, angles, just the camera work, the depth and stuff like that. And also the photo should look natural. That's the part probably the guys get wrong the most. So it shouldn't be like you're posing for the camera. So like yearbook photos and stuff like that are not good for dating apps. You want to basically make it seem like you were just doing something cool and one of your friends took a photo from you of you. That's the vibe you want to have. I think the second mistake is not screening correctly. At the end of the day, there's going to be girls that are looking for the same thing as you and not looking for the same thing as you. So I think that guys are afraid to sexualize. They're afraid to like have anything sexual in their bio. They're afraid to sexualize over text. And then that just creates a problem where they just wind up meeting up with girls who are just like not on the same page as them. I think that guys get needy really fast if the girl doesn't reply, jumping to the worst conclusions like, oh shit, she hasn't responded to 4 hours. She must be getting fucked by three black guys right now. Like just guys just like jumping to these conclusions. I think that's pretty common. I think that guys closing poorly or rushing the close. I think in general, you want to build a little bit of investment on the dating app before you go for the meetup. Guys either take way too long, they just keep bantering with the girl forever until she gets bored, or they just try to go for the close off like the second or third text. Neither one of those is an optimal strategy. Guys not knowing how to deal with reschedules or flakes, not knowing what to do when the girl stops responding. So, for example, I kind of popularized the concept of takeaways. So, for example, let's say you text a girl and you say, hey, want to get together Thursday night, 8 p.m. She doesn't respond. You would wait a day or two and you send her a takeaway, like, don't think too hard now. And takeaways are really powerful. I've done videos on like how to use takeaways correctly, but not knowing how to use those. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch more, but those are just the common ones.
Okay, the pretty exhaustive list, but it's absolutely true. A lot of guys don't know how to take photos, do their bios, or communicate. They take too long. I actually did a video recently on trying to get better photos because at least when the students that come to me and they want to explore more of the dating apps, I take a look at their Tinder profile and it's just like some sort of like bathroom selfie, or they're
Yeah.
taking pictures with their buddies who are better looking than they are,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So, what's interesting about the photography is I always tell the guys it's generally better if a lot of these guys they don't know how to pose whatsoever. It's sort of like approach, like just get a photo shoot done, just so that you're a little bit used to being on camera. Because a lot of Asian guys they don't know how to be photogenic, they're shy about it. Especially Asian culture. If you ever notice on any of the social media, they put up like an anime picture or something like that. They never show who they are. So for a lot of guys, just the act of taking pictures is probably one of their first times. So what I typically recommend is think from this is a cinematic term, right? But think from like the female gaze as opposed to the male gaze, where the guy thinks, oh, if I just take a bathroom selfie with my shirt off, she's gonna look at my abs. But in reality, she's looking at the entirety of the picture, seeing like, okay, this is just some college bro that takes a lot of creatine. Maybe he's kind of fun, but he's young, he's immature, lives with a bunch of roommates, as opposed to if you want to show off your muscles, do something on like the beach during the golden hour and like a yoga pose so it shows a little bit more, especially for those guys who might not be conventionally attractive. Now, you said that a lot of guys don't know how to be natural in photos. Like, what's your tip in that regards of how to
So,
take photos
yeah.
that are natural?
Yeah, so ideally, like in theory, a good photographer should be able to do all of that for you. So it's hard to say for guys who've never worked with a good photographer. 99% of people watching this have not. But here's what a good photographer, I've worked with, I know good photographers. I've trained one photographer to some extent. So basically, here's how it would go. Let's say you pick an activity like a motorcycle shot. So the photographer would basically get you to loosen up. So he would joke around with you. He would say, look over there, look over there. Think about your mom getting fucked. Like just basically take you out of your like kind of like your default state of being nervous for the photo shoot and kind of get you into the moment, right? That's what a good photographer would do. They would get you to look different ways and they would just be click, 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 click. For that motorcycle shot, that would get 200, 300 photos, right? And when you get a lot of photos with a lot of different angles and you have motion, you have the guy looking over there, looking over here, move your hand, right? You're going to get one photo that looks natural, like it's just bound to happen. The more you take, the more likely that is to happen. So a good photographer will do that for you. Most photographers are not good, at least when it comes to dating photos. But let's say I was like let's say like I asked like my girlfriend to take no, actually girls are actually intuitively good at taking photos. So let's say I ask one of my male friends to take a photo of me, someone who knows nothing about photography, and I give him my cell phone. So what I would probably want to do is generally forget that the camera is there. Like I don't you don't want to like pose for the camera. Like you want to just kind of forget what it is and just focus on whatever the activity is. Like let's say it's a photo where there's a cool background. Like let's say it's just like, I don't know, a waterfall or something like that. In that photo where there's no activity to distract you, you might just chill there. You might look around, look at the waterfall, look this way, look at this way, kind of just be in a mild state of motion. And I would just tell my buddy, click, 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 take photos, take different angles, walk around, take like 200 photos, and then we're going to get one that looks good. So that's really kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, there's an app. I actually get this from like a girl. I forget what it's called. I have it on photography, but the idea is it you just turn it and it just takes like 100 photos and the person just, just like holds the phone. It's just click, 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 click.
Mhm.
And as you said, like, out of 100 photos, one of them should be good. Now, so the guy takes the photos, and one thing I've noticed about photographers is like they want to edit it, the artistry and aesthetics and all that, but they tend to edit for, making the photo itself look good and not necessarily the
Yep.
guy, as opposed to like masculinize it. Now, I'm not saying, there's those who like use AI to kind of go overboard, but what's your take on using editing to make the man more aesthetic beyond just the beauty of the photo itself?
Yeah, I think we have a really easy tool, Face App. You just literally all you need to do is use one of the presets. I like the handsome preset, put it at like a 1 or 2, and that does the trick. So, but yeah, you're right. Some photographers do tend to over edit, and then that makes it seem like the guy paid for a photo shoot, which is not the vibe you want. I would tell a photographer to actually do very minimal edits, avoid filters, avoid a big blur in the background, avoid anything that makes it seem like this photo was professionally edited, basically. And just a mild to moderate amount of face app can do wonders just for improving your aesthetic. And super easy, and anyone can do it. You don't need to be a photographer to utilize face app.
All right, cool. And how important is the bio? In my opinion, if she's like looked through most of your photos and still kind of on the question mark, like that might make it or break it to see if you're sort of like weird. But yeah, at least in my personal opinion, find that the heavy work is always done in the photos. So what's your
Yeah,
opinion
of
about like
course. Yeah,
bios?
yeah, yeah. Heavy work is done by the photos. That's predominantly what matters. The bio. So here's what the bio is not going to get you matches. This is so the photos is what gets you the match. What the bio might do is either make the girl go ugh and make her swipe left. It could turn her off, or it could make you stand out from the guys that she matched with. So she matches with 10 guys that meet her looks threshold or have good photos. And then she's like, oh, this guy's bio is really interesting. I'm more interested in talking to him than the other people. So the bio can make you stand out. The bio can provide hooks that the girl can use to message you. So like for example, in my bio, I say weaknesses, great ass and cute accents. I live in Miami, where most girls are Latina. So there's a lot of girls that might open to me to say like, oh, I have one of your weaknesses, haha, or I have your weaknesses, right? So that would be called a hook, right? So you can put hooks in your bio that can make you stand out, make the girl message you first. You can use the bio to screen out girls who are, for example, looking for something more serious by having a sexual bio, but you're not going to use the bio to get more matches. It's just a matter of either screening or, or making yourself stand out, or ideally both within the bio.
Yeah. One thing too, and let me get your opinion on this, is do you care if she says looking for a long-term relationship versus those girls who are like into the like short term? Does that matter to you?
What the girl says in her bio is entirely irrelevant. I don't even bother to read the bio most of the time. If she tells you over text that she's looking for something serious, that does play a role. But if she says that in her bio, it's almost entirely irrelevant, according to my experience. I've had so many girls that say no hookups in their bio who are super DTF. So I don't even bother reading the bio. That's how irrelevant I think it is.
Got you. Got you. Now, speaking of text, do you have like a go-to line or opener? Like one of mine is, have you met the man of your dreams on this site yet? Like, what do you go with?
I mean, I have a bunch. I do videos every year where I say like best in the opener for 2024. The 2025 video will be out in a few weeks. But there's a bunch. Like I can just give you a few examples. Hey, want to steal my comfiest hoodie is really good. That one works well. Hey, I swipe. No, no, sorry. It goes like this: swipe right for, and then you insert something you like about the girl. So, for example, let's say she has cute glasses. Swipe right for sexy nerd glasses, or let's say she has tattoos. Swipe right for sexy tats. So that could be one. Another one could be something like can I be honest? Right? It's a curiosity opener. And she will say, yeah, sure. What do you want to tell me? That one has a high response rate. And then you basically you can say something like, you seem just like my type. So that's like a two-part opener that works pretty well. So yeah, there's a bunch. I have a bunch of videos on this where I test the openers, I send them out to a bunch of girls, and I like kind of break down this one had this response rate, blah blah blah. I do one of those like every year, basically.
No, it sounds good. I definitely think the guys should check that out. I like the open loop, right? The one that you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. So they've matched, right? And she's responding. So what I tend to advise my guys, being Asian, is they tend to stay on the app. And I've seen some of these messages. It's like a fucking novel,
Mhm.
right? They're like trying to go deep and like, no, I want to talk to her for an entire week. I'm like, bro, no. It's like, first of all, she might be a bot, right? Like, get her on the date, get off of that as fast as you can and get her on the date. Now, I tend to say like 15 minutes. If the conversation is live, right? I would say like, you're texting back and forth, 15 minutes, get off, get on the phone, set up the date. Now, you were saying a little bit earlier, you want the conversation, obviously not like a full blown novel, but do you go for like longer than 15 minutes?
I never looked at it in terms of minutes just because people's response rates vary. I guess like if it's going back and forth 15 minutes, I think is totally fine. If it's like happening pretty quickly. I look at it just like in terms of investment. So once you start getting a good amount of investment from the girl, like she's writing more than one sentence, she's writing you like she's double texting you or whatever. At that point, you can start going for the meetup. Now, sometimes you won't get investment over text. At that point, you would just go for the meetup anyway. If you look at most of my like texting, my lay reports, my if you measure it in terms of screenshots, which is usually how I measure it, like there's somewhere between 2 and 6 screenshots is when I go for the meetup, depending on what the girl's asking me, depending on the vibe. So I don't dilly daddle. I think that's a mistake a lot of guys make where they just banter forever, blah, blah, blah. Everything I do is very deliberate. Like I released a video today actually that breaks this down where I just basically do a screen recording as I'm like messaging girls on Tinder and I break down my thought process. And I talk about how like I'm always trying to move it forward a little bit. I just move it forward in subtle, progressive ways that are not super blatant. But like every text has a purpose. Either it's to build investment, it's to move things forward, or it's to figure out logistics. Like everything has a purpose. I'm not just like bantering to no end, which I agree is a common mistake guys make. Also, there's like a lot of flirting in my text, teasing, right? I keep things very playful, very flirty. So I think that, yeah, especially I think the bigger mistake is not only just texting for too long, but having your text be overly platonic and logical, where you're just asking interview questions or you're talking about your work or whatever. Like if you go through my lay reports or you watch my like whatever texting videos, you'll see there's not really that much logical info being exchanged. There's a little bit. It's not like I'm just totally flirting 100% of the time. Like I might ask her some logical questions like where she's from to give me something to build on, but the majority of it is like very flirty and playful. And yeah, I agree with you. If we're going like back and forth, like if we're saying like the girl's responding within 30 seconds, 15 minutes is more than enough, actually. It could be 10 minutes. Most girls are not insta responding, so I never measured it in terms of minutes. I always measured it in terms of screenshots.
Got you. Now, this raises up two things. One is the emotional burden that women have because they are being matched by the hundreds, right? And
Mhm.
the idea is like pushing it forward because I know like a lot of clients they feel uncomfortable with it. It's like, oh, that's too forward, that's too much, especially like the Gen Z kids nowadays. Like, oh, I'm violating her boundaries. But you have to remember, like a girl has so many options, and what that happens is analysis paralysis, is the paradox of choice, right? So when a
Yeah.
guy presents a plan of action, like you might barely make her threshold of attractiveness, as you said, or what I call like the fuckable line. But by relieving her that burden of just trying to make a decision, she'll a lot of times be like, oh, you know what? I don't have to make a choice. He's got a plan. Let's follow that.
Huh?
And then to your second
Yeah, you're
point,
correct.
when it comes to like flirting, because I get a lot of Asian guys who don't speak English very well, it's hard for them to flirt online, right? So I always say, this is why we get them on the phone because you can send memes, right? Like, I'm showing my age, but I was not born in the age of cell phones. So I am much more funnier in person than I am on the phone. Like I feel that I'm very dry and logical on the phone. So what I end up doing is sending a lot of memes, whatever part of that conversation that I'm having, we're sending memes or sending her my dog picture, again, trying to move it forward, keeping it emotional, fun. Like, what's your opinion like on memes? Do you use memes a lot, or are you just more like that text flirter?
I used to use memes more back in the day. I'm not opposed to memes. I wouldn't overdo it though. I think some guys go too heavy on the memes. But there's some memes like in my course, I have like a memes collection where I just like basically all the memes that I've ever used, I
Yeah,
have
I'm
them in
sorry,
there.
sorry for folder state about that.
Yeah, I think a good one that I like, just easy one to use, is the Ryan Gosling meme of like, "Hey girl, happy Tuesday." If you guys want to find that, just whatever day of the week you're trying to do, like let's say it's Friday, just type in Google image search Ryan Gosling, "Hey girl, happy Friday," and you'll get a collection of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those ones I think are pretty great. That one just works really well. I have one that I really like. This was actually custom made, not by me, but one of my friends, but I've been using it a lot. Is if the girl's not responding, it's like a meme of like a skeleton sitting in a chair with like a beer in his hand, and it's
It's
like,
like how long it wait.
yeah, waiting for you to text me back, like, and then it's just like the skeleton, like, looks like
Yeah,
he's
I've
dying.
used that one.
Yeah, like that one's good. But yeah, I don't really nowadays go heavy on the memes because I just like, I don't know. I feel like my texting banter and just banter in real life has gotten good enough where I can just, it's just faster for me to type than it is to find a meme. But I think that if you struggle with that, it's okay to use memes. Just don't overdo it because then it just becomes weird.
Yeah, I've got like the Ron Gosling one, and one I use for Asians is, I'll ask this sort of question, say, hey, you know what they say about us Asian guys, right? And it's like, what? And I'll send them like this photo. It's just some fashion photo of like this handsome like Asian guy with all these abs and a girl on her knees. It's some sort of Calvin Klein one. It says, and the caption is, once you go Asian, you can't go Caucasian, right? Just to like sexualize it.
Yeah.
So you've got her on the phone. Um, do you like what's your progression, right, to going for the date? Do you still continue to flirt, build connection, or like you're just like using the text just to figure out logistics?
So, it depends, but generally speaking, I will soft close generally like close on the app actually. So let's say there's one or two screenshots of flirting and banter. I'll say we should get together sometime soon. She'll say sure. I'll say what's your schedule like? She'll say, oh, I'm free on the weekends. I'll say cool. How does Friday night sound? She'll say sure. I'll say cool. Shoot me your number. Now I already have a date set up. I might go back and forth with her a little bit over text. Like if she's asking me questions, I have to respond. She can't be like, "What do you do for work?" And then I just ignore her. And the day of the date, I'm like, "Hey, still good for tonight?" So like, part of it depends on how much she's asking me and how much I feel like does she need more comfort before she will, or is she gonna flake if I don't give her more comfort? So a lot of it is like a vibe thing, a judgment call I'm making. I like to do as least texting as possible because I'm busy. So I don't want to sit there and just like fucking go back and forth with the girl. So I try to keep my process as simple as possible. But sometimes complexity is necessary depending on the situation. And then over text, I might just go back and forth a little bit, but then I just confirm. If the date is only a few days out, then I'll just text her on the day of the date. Hey, still good for tonight. You always want to confirm. If the date was like 5, 6 days out, then the night before, I might text her, pick out a cute outfit for tomorrow yet, kind of give her like a little playful reminder. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it. If there's any objections that come up or whatever, I'll deal with those. I mean, sometimes I've gotten into like crazy frame control battles. Like the girl, for example, doesn't want to come over, or she thinks I'm a fuckboy or whatever. And then, like, I've shown that in videos, like how I just progressively like frame control the situation over text. But yeah, I mean that's more advanced situations. Like ideally, like most of the time you don't get into that. It's like pretty straightforward, especially if your bio is like somewhat sexual, so the girl's on the same page as you. But yeah, sometimes things can get real complicated. But if you understand like a lot of it translates. If you're good at game in real life, you're going to learn game pretty fast over text. It's going to be like those are the easiest students. So the guys who are already doing well in real life, they learn dating apps like this. It's the guys who struggle with just social dynamics and understanding just, what is supposed to happen and why things happen the way they do when it comes to like male to female interactions. Those are the guys that struggle the most.
Got you. One little thing that I like to do for the logistical reminder, like you're talking about, is I'll send a picture of my dog, Lady, cutest dog in the world, right? And I'll say, Lady says, friends, don't let friends drink and drive. Let me know if you need an Uber, right,
Hmm.
to the location. And that tells me if she wants to drink that night. And I'm not going to do this with every girl, right? But if she's like hot, right, I want to control for logistics. She
Hmm.
confirms. And
Hmm.
then, if I'm getting an Uber, it's definitely worked in my favor to control for anti-flake. Um,
Hmm.
anything you want to say on the date itself?
Yeah, sure. Just real quick, the dog thing is really cool. I have a dog too, as you guys can
Yeah.
see. I have an adorable husky. I have a photo where I don't know why, but Rhaegar, my dog, is looking in the mirror and he looks like really sad. I don't know how it happened, but he just did. And so if a girl ever stops responding or she flakes, I'll send her a photo of Rhaegar looking like in the mirror, looking really sad, and I'll just say Rhaegar is displeased. And that one works really well at getting
You
like girls to
broke his heart, you bitch.
yeah, Rhaegar's displeased and just him looking like really sad. Or I have like, or I use my dog a lot
Oh
actually. That's
yeah, dogs are cheat codes. I fucking
yeah,
love
yeah,
my dog.
massive cheat codes. Like I have one that will the girl will say, "What are you doing?" So okay, so here's how I set it up. I say, "Hey, how's your day going?" She's like, "Good. How's yours?" And I'll say, "Good. Just hanging out with this guy." And it's a photo that shows my tattoo and it shows my dog. And the girl will say, "Oh, that's so cute." I'll say, "Thanks." He says he's excited to meet you, and that's like a really easy progression towards the date.
Yeah.
I basically talk in my dog in the third person. I do this with cold approach sometimes too. I'll go up to a girl, be like, "Hey, I know this is random. My dog thought you were really cute and he wanted me to say hi." I find that works better than like, "Hey, I thought you were really cute and I want to say hi." It's a variation of that opener. But quite often at the very early stages, I'll almost use my dog as like a prop. Obviously, the girl knows that my dog isn't physically talking to me, right? But it works pretty well. It's like funny and flirty. In terms of on the date, I like to have the girl come straight to my place. I'm a big believer in that. But obviously there's gonna be a percentage of girls that are just not gonna agree to that for safety reasons or whatever. They're gonna want to win and meet in public. Like that was, for example, my current girlfriend, right? Like she didn't want to come straight over. She wanted to meet in public. That's all like it's gonna be like probably 50% of the girls, they're gonna want to meet in public. Yeah, I mean, on the date, like I just keep things very fun and flirty, very playful. Here's kind of a thing I always say is that at the end of the date, if the police were to go up to the girl and say, "Hey, this guy's a wanted criminal. What can you tell me about him?" She's not really going to be able to answer the question well. She's not going to be able to give a bunch of logical facts. She'll say, he's funny." And because I'm not talking a lot about logical things about myself on the date, I'm mostly asking inquisitive questions, joking around, being playful, being flirty. I think the mistake guys make is they just kind of treat it like an interview. They start talking about themselves, sharing logical facts. And unless you're telling a cool story, no one gives a shit. Like people just want to talk about themselves, except with the exception of your close friends and family. No one gives a shit. No one cares about your life story unless it's interesting or unless it's like funny or something like that. So I think guys ramble on about themselves too much. I like to be more inquisitive, ask more questions, and just I like to have fun. I just fuck around a lot. I'm quite inappropriate. I just say like off the cuff shit. I really push the envelope sometimes with like what you can and can't say and can get away with. But I can pull it off because I'm just like really playful the whole time. So the girl doesn't hold me to the same standard she would hold a guy who's like very logical and stiff. But yeah, I mean, I just fuck around with it. Building sexual tension as much as possible. That's the big thing I tell guys to focus on is just build as much sexual tension as you can. Think of sexual tension as like currency. The more currency you have, then the easier it becomes to pull once you have a lot of sexual tension. Don't, be understand a shit test. So like, for example, let's say you're pulling the girl and she's like, "Just so you know, we're not having sex tonight." You can totally fuck it up there. Even if you've done everything well so far, by being like logical or defensive, be like, "Well, why not? We had a good date." Like, bam, over, right?
Yeah.
So understand what a
Buying
shit
into our
test is.
frame. Yeah.
Yeah, understand what frame is, understand what yeah, the difference between a shit test and objection, how to handle that, understand how to turn a girl on, physically and verbally, right? Because you can do it both ways. Ideally, you want some combination of both. So yeah, I guess I kind of rambled, but that would be probably
No,
my.
it's all good stuff. Gold, man. I like the point that you made when you said, if she was asked by the police, what do you know about him? And like you said, a lot of guys info dump. They just info dump.
Mhm,
But the reality is, how does she feel about you?
mhm,
Right. So I do like, storytelling, but I always tell the guys, like, people don't care what you say. They only care about how did you make her feel.
mhm,
Like
mhm.
that's important. How
Yeah.
does she feel about the story and what you said and, the
People
interaction
want to, yeah.
thereof?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, attraction isn't logical. That's a thing that's a lot of red pillars struggle to comprehend is that you can't logic your way into pussy. You
Yeah.
can't show up on a date and tell her like, I'm a high value man, I make six figures, I'm 6 feet tall. That's actually going to be unattractive because you're bragging. Attraction happens on a subconscious emotional level. And yeah, it's completely about how you make her feel. And people in general want to feel things. Whether sometimes even bad, sometimes even feeling something bad is better than feeling nothing at all. If you can harness and turn that emotion into, sometimes you can take a negative emotion and turn it into a positive emotion, but that's better than no emotion. So yeah, I think that's another problem guys run into is they go on a date and the girl just feels no emotion besides like mild apathy and boredom. And it's like, yeah, cool, yeah, oh, I do this, yeah, right. You also sometimes want to use like this is getting a little bit more advanced, but pattern interrupters. So for example, if a photographer is doing a photo shoot, a pattern interrupter might be like, hey, look over here, look over there. You can tell the guys in his head, be like, cool, look up, look down, think about your mom getting fucked by three dudes. Like, what? You snap that person out of it. It's a pattern interrupter. But sometimes if you find the girl's in her head, you can use pattern interrupters on date to kind of get her in the moment, right? So for example, you can do it. You can actually just be direct, be like, hey, where are you right now? She's like, what do you mean? I'm here with you. I mean, like, no, like, where are you in your head? You look like you're just in a different universe, right? You can do it like that. You can just say something a little bit outrageous. Be like, oh, holy shit, that guy's jerking off over there. She's like, wait, what? And then like, I'm just fucking around. But like, you snapped her out of like being in her head and put her in that moment. So yeah, there's like a lot of more advanced techniques like that. But yeah, I totally agree that it's about feeling. It's all emotional. It's all feeling based. It's not logical. Attraction is not logical. And that's something that's really hard for a lot of guys to just kind of comprehend, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just like they're either emotionally repressed, don't know how to express it, and because they haven't expressed it, it's hard for them to feel it, right? Again, especially for Asian guys coming from a culture
Mhm.
where emotional expression is not something that's plentiful,
Yeah.
right? I mean, going off what you're saying, pattern interrupt, what I'll do a lot is like I'll just roast the girl. Right. I either like
Mhm.
roast the girl, just kind of make fun of her, not in a mean way, because I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
really ascribe to negging. It's a useful tactic, but like when
Like
it comes to
teasing.
students, they fuck it up 9 times out of 10, right?
Mhm.
Like roasting, or I'll do like a lot of reframing, right? Where it's like I'll be the object of seduction, and she's the one trying to get me,
Mhm.
right? It's like, oh my God, you've got an Asian fetish, that kind of stuff. But kind of taking a step back now, going to social media. Do you use Instagram a lot to like set up dates or to meet girls?
Not really, no. I think 99% of guys have shitty Instagrams, so they're better off
Yeah.
not using their Instagrams. And it's much harder to have a good Instagram than it is to have a good Tinder profile. A good Tinder profile, you need four, five, six photos. Good Instagram, you need dozens and dozens. I think I have a pretty decent Instagram just simply because of what I do. Like there's photographers who've agreed to take free photos of me in exchange for shout outs. I've been on podcasts, so you can see photos of me like looking at like cool events or doing podcasts. So I'm kind of lucky in that sense that I get this like a little bit of a cheat code because of my job. But no, generally, I personally don't utilize my Instagram that much. I always, if I'm on a dating app, I always move things to text or WhatsApp. And I always tell guys to, unless they have like a really dope Instagram, and those are few and far in between, but I have seen those, to generally you want to just keep things on text or on WhatsApp. I know, like out of all the guys I know, there's maybe five or 10 for who I would say out of hundreds, where their Instagram is going to be more of an asset than a liability.
Yeah, Instagram takes a little bit of curation. One thing I
Mhm.
find with younger students is their tendency to go to Instagram as their go-to sort of contact close instead of the number. And I always say, like, make sure it's curated. Make sure it's actually decent and not just like food porn and your dog pic, but actually showing some kind of lifestyle. Like mine is just, it's competent enough. Like it looks nice. I've gotten compliments on it, but it isn't like, like celebrity like up there. It's like good
Mhm.
enough, right? Um, so when it comes to texting, you mentioned like dealing with like shit tests, right? Over
Mhm.
text. Like I know a lot of guys will get that. Like you were saying, like, oh, I want to continue talking to get to know you first. I've heard this a lot, right? Where there's like, oh, I don't want to meet up for the date. Yeah, let's continue talking. Like, what do you do in that regards?
So
Or
that
other
might not
similar
actually,
shit tests?
I wouldn't really even consider that generally a shit test. That would be more of a girl just expressing her wish or desire. When I think of a shit test, I think of something more like, so yeah, sometimes the line between a concern, objection, and shit test gets blurred. I've done videos where I've kind of given specific examples. I can see how it gets very, very confusing. And some guys make the mistake of thinking everything is a shit test. So, okay, let me try to give some examples. So okay, so here's how a shit test might go. You might have a sexual bio, and the girl would say, uh, uh, "Who do you think you are, writing a bio like that?" Right? That might be like an example of a shit test. So the way you would handle it, there's two ways you can handle shit tests. You can either just respond with humor. Um, you can also reframe it. So okay, so here's one that's going to be more common. The girl thinks, oh, the girl messages you because you have a sexual bio, and let's say you have a photo with girl. She's like, so you think you're God's gift to woman, huh? Like that's a shit test. Like it's a blatant shit test. So the way you would fail that is you would start logically explaining, like, no, I don't think I'm God's gift to women. That photo was just taken by one of my friends, but failed, right? Another way is by getting reactive, like, oh yeah, well, what do you think? You're God's gift to men? Like, also fail, right? But if you just respond, yes, that's what mom told me growing up, like kind of responding with humor, you pass. Or or a reframe example, a reframe might be like, oh, I'm flattered. Is that what? Oh, I'm flattered. We haven't even started talking yet, and you already think I'm God's gift to women. So that might be like a example. It's not. I would probably make it more succinct, but that's kind of an idea of like a reframe. So that's would be the shit test. An objection might be more something like, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable coming straight to your place." You don't want to handle that like a shit test. You want to handle that like objection. So you might say something like, uh, I understand, stranger danger question mark, which is most likely a question that you already know the answer to. Yes, the answer is yes. So she's going to say yes. I just don't do that with strangers. And then, you might handle that by just saying, oh, it's cool. We can meet in public. Or the way I would phrase that is like, I understand. Why don't we meet at a bar first? Something like that. But I'm using the word first. So I'm planting the frame that assuming I'm not a serial killer, we're going to go back to my place. So what you mentioned is like the girl saying is like, I want to keep talking on here more. That could be a shit test, but I think more often than not, that would not be a shit test. That'd be more just, it wouldn't even really be an objection. I guess it is sort of a variation of an objection. So how would you handle that? I mean, some girls are just annoying and they want to like fucking banter forever and they're like might not even have plans of meeting. So sometimes you just want to screen the girl out. But I might say something like, yeah, I just find that text is very impersonal. Uh, it's so much better when you can talk in real life. So that would be like I would reframe that a little bit. And then, how would she respond to that? I mean, she has to agree to that. That's a truism. So she might say, yeah, I just, had a bad experience, blah, blah, blah. So I want to be more careful. I'll be like, sorry to hear about that. We can chat on the phone for a few minutes if you feel more comfortable. That's kind of like a reframe, right? So I'm just going to do a quick phone call with her rather than texting with her forever. So yeah, so does that answer the question? I kind of went on again on a massive tangent here.
No, no, it's all gold, right? It's just with the students that I have, they're very technically inclined and they tend to fall into these sort of like very common pitfalls. So, going off of like, oh, because they'll talk and it sort of encourages women just to like, talk because it doesn't really
Mhm.
require a lot of investment because you want to meet them in real life. So they can just kind of feel like they have like this entourage of men that are just like blowing up their phone. Because like another thing that happens a lot because, Asian guys, good careers, all that money, is the girl will insist on going to an expensive place, right? They'll go like a Michelin star, and I'm like, like, bro, that's like she's using you for a meal ticket, right?
Yeah.
Like, is like, how do you typically deal with that, or at least
So
how
that
you would
doesn't,
advise your
yeah.
clients?
So I think that problem can be largely preempted, not entirely preempted, but largely preempted. just by not coming off as like the provider, more of the lover, by being flirty, fun, fucking around. It's not often that girls really do that to me. Second of all, I
You
just
just
have
got that fuckboy vibe, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Second of all is that I just have a strict rule. I don't do food dates ever, period, no exceptions. So there's only a few possibilities for the first date. We meet at my place, we meet at a bar that's very near my place, we go for a walk near my place. Those are the three options. She has to pick one. There's no middle ground. If she wants to be in the middle, whatever, I'll try some frame control. Doesn't work, whatever. Wish you the best. So yeah, so I screen pretty aggressively like that. So yeah, you want to just put your foot down. Like no food dates, period. I don't care if it's a Michelin restaurant or like a taco stand. Like fuck that. Food dates or suboptimal. You always want to stick to either drinks or if you don't drink, like having a walk or something like that. I actually don't drink, but I'll still meet girls at a bar. I'll bring my bottle of like fucking kava with me and just sip on that. Some girls might be like, "What are you drinking? It looks like dirt." I'm like, "Yeah, it is dirt. I just literally drink dirt. It's so much fun." And then, I'll explain to her, I'll be like, "Yeah, when I went to Fiji, I discovered kava. Oh, that's so cool. I want to try it." Be like, "Yeah, have some at home. We can drink some later. Bam, use seed the pool." That's kind of the mindset you want to have. But I'll give a tip to your audience. Think about every text. What is the purpose of this text? Does this text move me closer to my goal of the date, or does it do nothing? Right? Or does it move me further? Sometimes you send texts that move you further from your goal. And when you think of it like that, it's like, what is the purpose of this text? You'll realize that a lot of the texts that guys send actually don't have any purpose. There's no plan, there's no design to them. And once you start thinking more logically, like a chess game, like I'm always thinking like one or two moves ahead. When I send a girl like a text, I have a rough idea of how she's going to respond. And then I already have in my head what I'm going to say next and how that's going to move me towards the date. Right. So, I mean, that's getting a little advanced. I don't expect guys in the beginning to have that, but just a good starting point is like, what is the purpose of this text? Does it move me closer to my goal? If the answer is no, then don't send it because there's going to be a text that does do that for you.
Yeah, speaking of which, like, and I've been back and forth on this personally, is the double text. Sometimes, like, for me, like, I'll sometimes get barraged, just, work every day, people hitting me up, and the texts just get lost. Like, I've got so much on my plate. And so sometimes, a double text works to remind me, like, hey, I haven't responded to this person. And so putting myself in the mindset of the girl, sometimes she's getting hit up, she's getting offers from her friends, from some guys that cold approach her, from the online world, like the dating apps. You know, in that regards, I think sometimes double texting can work. Like, where do you fall on the idea of double texting?
Yeah, I've gotten criticism from like red pillars on this, but I'm a big proponent of double and even triple texting.
Mm.
I think that if you're not double or triple texting, you're leaving a lot of leads on the table because of your ego. There's an important distinction that needs to be made between needy double texting and persistent double texting. So lot of it just comes down to how soon do you send a double text. I have a rule. I wait, typically, there's some exceptions, like 48 hours before I send a double text, and I'll wait like at least 5 days, if not a week, to send a triple text, right? Just by spacing it out like that, you already really mitigate the needy possibility. Also matters what the text says. But yeah, I think that especially with the hotter girls on dating apps, is I've just noticed if I look back at like the girls who I slept with from dating apps that were 8 and above, right? Uh, Almost every single one of them, if not every one of them, I had to at least double text and sometimes triple text. You just have to be persistent, and I think girls like it when a guy's persistent. They just have again. There's just so many guys hitting them up that I think you should be able to accept the fact that you're not a priority until you meet her, and that's okay. I think guys get like an ego hit about that,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm okay with the fact that I'm not her number one priority because I haven't met her yet, and she's not my number one priority. That kind of changes once you have sex with a girl. Maybe you don't become her number one priority, but you become a priority at that point most of the time, unless you're really bad in bed. So yeah, I think that again, you're leaving a lot of leads on the table. This goes back to my sales background. I had a reputation for I would take the clients that the other salespeople gave up on, and then I would personally I'd be like, yeah, I'll take your client from you. You gave up on this guy, okay, fuck it. And then I would like double call them, triple text them, and I would get some of those sales, man. Like sometimes the people would be like, yeah, dude, sorry, I've just been busy and I've been putting it off, but yeah, sure, tell me about whatever it is you're doing. Same thing with girls. Like girls will be like, okay, some girls will be like, yeah, honestly, I know I ghosted on you, but I like your persistence. What's up? You want to meet up? So, and I've shown those examples publicly many, many times in my videos and my lay reports on the website. So I think that it's just a mistake to principally be against double texting for some arbitrary reason because, oh, it makes me look needy. I think you should not give a shit at all what the girl thinks or what other people think. And like, even if it does make you look needy, who gives a fuck if it gets you the date? Like, who cares? There's not like some PUA arbiter that's like checking your text and like giving you a
You lose
rating. Like, yeah,
manhood points
you
for that,
know,
right?
yeah, you lost like 5 pickup points. Like, remember when we were doing our live stream, the guy was like talking about how do you measure your skills as a pickup artist? Like, this is the wrong frame to be coming from, right? Like, and the idea of like, oh, I'm worried about being needy. It's also like, I think largely coming from the wrong frame. It's like, who gives a shit what the girl thinks? In general, you don't want to be needy because that hurts your own results. But again, by spacing things out and especially utilizing takeaways, you can avoid becoming needy. I have some lay reports where I quadruple texted the girl, right? Again, that gets into more advanced stuff like how do you send the right quadruple text? It gets pretty tricky. But another trick that, again, this goes back to what I said earlier, is using takeaways strategically. So let's say I'm texting a girl and everything's going well. I say, ah, cool, we should get together. And she doesn't respond. So what will I do? I'll probably wait like 2 days. And then I'll say, if you're too nervous, I'd understand. Hit her with like a mild to moderate takeaway. Usually the girl will be like kind of compelled to respond, like, no, I'm not nervous. It's just blah, 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 blah. Okay, bam, I win. Now she's back on the table. Or if she doesn't respond to that, I'll might wait a week and then I'll hit her with a more harsh takeaway. I might say, I genuinely didn't take you for the flaky type. Because no girl, even if she is super flaky, wants to be known as the flaky type. So that also kind of compels her to respond. Or like that skeleton meme that we talked about. So kind of like hitting on those emotional triggers, I think is really important. And especially if you're going for hotter girls, I would say is like basically essential. If you're like principally refuse to double text girls, you're going to miss out on, I want to say, unless you're some Giga Chad, you're going to miss out on the vast majority of like the hotter girls on dating apps.
Yeah, I think so much could be solved with all of our clients if one, they could be egoless, right? Just remove their ego from the
Yeah.
equation. And two, just feel what it's like to be a hot girl and in that universe where so much is demanded
Mhm.
of her attention,
Yeah.
right? Like I get it because, I have a lot of people demanding my attention, but can you imagine if you're a really beautiful girl? Sometimes it's nothing personal. It's not because she didn't like you, your photos or anything like that. It's just because she's got like so many offers to hang out, do stuff, career, travel to Fiji or whatever, right? That pretty privilege. Like this shit is just gold, man. Like I hope everybody's like taking notes. Like Alex has got some like really gold stuff. Like I am learning so much here. So, we've been going on for a while, right? So let me give you the opportunity to, if you have any last words of advice for anyone watching this, what would you say to them when it comes to just game, online dating apps, texting, what have you?
I would say that game, it's like a skill game. It's like poker or something like that. Everyone has different starting points, right? Some people are just like relative, pretty socially competent. Let's say they were the popular kid in high school. They just don't really understand texting, or they don't understand how to set up a profile, or they just don't understand like, how to optimally pull a girl or stuff like that. But they have a generally good grasp of social dynamics. So they're starting much harder. Some people are, autistic, right? They're starting at a very low point. Most people are somewhere in the middle, right? They struggle to understand, certain things, but they maybe had friends growing up, so they're not totally socially, incompetent. So it's a skill game that everyone can get better at. I think that a lot of people don't believe me when I say this, which is why I keep my old YouTube channel up, the one I had when I was like 23, so you can see how autistic I was, even though it's like super embarrassing. But I started off at a pretty bad point. I was a virgin like until I was 19, lost my virginity to a fat chick in Mexico. Not pleasant, less than like 30 seconds. She probably didn't even know I was fucking her because it was so quick. Really struggled with girls growing up. Was borderline suicidal when I was like in my 20s in college and just like watched my roommate fuck the girl that I pulled, like all this shit. So I had a pretty low point. But I guess one thing I always had going for me is that I was always determined that I was like, you know what, like I think I can learn this. And then once I learned about the pickup community, I saw that there was other guys who started off at a low point, were able to improve. And that's all I needed to see. Like that really was just like a light bulb. Because my mindset is if another guy can do it, then why can't I do it? I apply that with like pretty much everything. That's a really good mindset to have. It's like, like, hey, listen, if people can build businesses online, why can't I do it? Like, is it, I'm not dumb. I'm not like, what's separating me? It's like, oh, well, it's just I'm not taking the right action or I haven't learned the right skills yet, right? So that's kind of the mindset that I think it's really good to have when it comes to any type of dating, is that it's a skill game that with practice you can improve on. Now, it is important to get good feedback. Now, one thing I had going for me when I was learning game is that I had a natural friend who taught me a lot of shit. And that really helped me course correct a lot because I was doing a lot of things wrong. And that's just luck. It's just lucky that one of my best friends in college was like really good with girls, and then we lived in the same city in LA for afterwards. So that's luck. So I think that, that's why it's good to get a coach or find a mentor or stuff like that, because you can course correct a lot faster. Sometimes guys will just do the same shit. I've seen guys do the same shit for 5, 10 years. They make no progress. They're like
Mm.
5 years ago, they were exactly the same point they are now, but now they're a lot more bitter and they're a lot more pissed off, right? So if you find you're not making progress, like definitely get a coach, whoever it is, someone that can help you course correct and point out what you're doing wrong. I think you said it really well that take your ego aside, like completely kill your ego. That's the thing that holds guys back massively. It's like, oh, I can't bring myself to do this or whatever. It's like, who gives a fuck? Like at the end of the day, if guys could just completely stop caring what girls and other people thought of them, they would already just doing that alone. If they could kill that mindset, they'd already be like 50% better off when it comes to their game. So just completely not giving a shit at all what the girls think, because you realize at the end of the day it doesn't matter. Like what you think, it's natural to think. When I was younger, I thought this as like you were going about your day, like, oh, everyone's judging you if you cold approach a girl and get rejected, everyone's gonna be laughing at you. Reality, no one cares. Everyone's focused on themselves. No one gives a shit at all. You can have the worst, most embarrassing rejection. The girl says, you're a fucking loser who has a tiny penis. Maybe a few people will chuckle. That's it. They'll forget about it 5 minutes later. So, yeah, I guess those would be my parting words.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point about having that natural friend or someone who can give you feedback, especially when it's constructive and they're not just telling white lies to make you feel good. You need to course correct because, like, because cut my teeth back in like the Project Hollywood mystery days. And there was this one guy, right? Go to like the Hollywood Lair meetings and stuff like that. He'd make fun of us, like, "Oh, you paid for a mystery boot camp." Oh, it's like I just download that shit. I ran into him like 10 years later, right at Saddle Ranch where we all used to go, and he's still got that long, greasy hair, like board shorts, flip flops, like getting the same exact results that he was 10 years before. And here I am, having traveled the world, had my fun. It's like, yeah, I paid money for a lesson, but what did he pay? Time, which is really the most precious resource, right? Like that's what when students, clients come to us is they're buying time to learn the lessons, the mistakes that you and I have made so they get to that result that much faster. Speaking of which, how can our audience find more about what you have to offer?
Sure. I want to just make one last point on that because I think there's this weird stigma that exists around paying for coaching for dating advice. It doesn't apply to anything else. There's no stigma for getting a personal trainer if you want to get in better shape. There's no stigma for going to college or getting a technical degree if you want to learn whatever. Like this only exists with dating, and it's just a stupid ego thing. Like just don't get engaged in that at all because just it doesn't apply to anything else. Like, and if your friends or people around you want to shame you for paying for dating advice, then just like fucking stop hanging out with those people or tell them that they're retarded or explain what I said about the fitness analogy because it's just like, yeah, just like it's so stupid. Like we have we literally don't have a stigma for wanting trading in any other field, in any other industry, in any other expertise, except for dating for some weird reason. And that's just pure ego and it's just pure nonsense. But yeah, people can find me. They go to my YouTube channel, Playing with Fire. I try of value there. If you prefer like reading guides and stuff like that, I have a website called plainfire.com. Actually, there's a lot of really good stuff on there. You can read my lay reports there. You can see the photos of the girls I've hooked up with. You can see all the screenshots from start to finish. I have dozens and dozens of those. I have a lot of tips and guides there where I show you basically whatever texting or dating question you have. I probably have at least a few articles on it. So yeah, those are the places where you can find me.
I mean, I know I've learned a lot just by listening to you. So, like I said, like for me, like my texting, my dating app game, it's competent. Like it gets the
Oh,
job done, right? But it isn't
no.
something that I've fully invested in, simply because like I always felt like my in-person game is where is my
Oh,
strength. But even just listening to you, I've learned so much. And I'm gonna put your link in the description so everybody that wants to check out Alex and all of his free stuff or any of his services, just go ahead and click the link in the description. So, Alex, thank you so much. I know you've given a
thank
lot
you.
of
I appreciate it.
value
It
to
was a
me
lot
and
of fun,
my.
actually. I enjoyed this a lot.
All right, man. Take
Take
care.
it easy.
Thanks for watching our video. I hope you liked it. And make sure you guys subscribe to this channel and watch all our other videos. Great news too. Every Monday, we'll be putting out a new weekly video. That's right, we've got educational seminars, street interviews, fun in-field pickup videos, and anything else we can come up with that's fun for you guys to watch. So check back.